education has shaped the way that you approach environmental work? And do you think that you learned any transferable skills or wisdom that have been helpful in this new chapter of your life?
Okay, two things. One, we need to remember to start recording. Oh, it is recording.
Yeah, it's recording right now already.
Okay, we're gonna pause.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got that. And well, the population back at that time, in the 5th district, of 734 people, according to the U.S. Census, and the population recorded at 828 by the census. We have 91% African American and 8% white residents, and we have a few others that's in the neighborhood also. Okay, what gave rise to St. James? When Formosa Plastics decided to be built in St. James, 2 miles from my home, that's when the fight started. When we got together and decided that we was going to fight this and that no more people would have to die because of industry and no more people would get so much cancer. We have so much cancer in this area, especially in St. James Parish. So that's when our struggle started. The history behind the struggle. The Mississippi River corridor is an 85-mile stretch between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And we have a lot of pollution. Just like I said, people are dying. People don't know the facts. They are not educated about what's going on. We thought that our public officials were protecting us and looking out for our best interests, but we found out that they are not. So that's why the citizens had to step up and take the fight over, because our public officials are not. This is a picture of Cancer Alley, one section in Cancer Alley. Look at all the chemicals, all the chemical plants. It's a chemical produced along the Mississippi River corridor. You can see the map and it shows you all from Mississippi on down. But we are bombarded with the most between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. That's why we call Cancer Alley. This is a picture of Grandma and the baby. This billboard that we placed up there, it says, "Stop Formosa. St. James Parish Council can save our lives." St. James Parish Council can stop this right now if they wanted to, but they don't want to stop it. We don't have anyone that really standing with us to help us fight this fight on the parish council. When they voted, it was 5 members of the parish council who voted for Formosa Plastics. We had 2 members were absent, and the other 5 voted for it. Like we are nothing, like we don't deserve to live, and like we don't deserve to have clean air, clean water, and clean soil. So 5 of those members voted for it. Yes, Rise St. James is a faith-based organization. It's grassroots, and it came from us, from the citizens of St. James Parish. That's me when I was working. I worked 7 days a week, and that's one of the days when I was in my kitchen on a Zoom call working. I have Zoom calls every day, sometimes on weekends, but I don't just sit around, I work, because this is a full-time job and you have to do the works. If you don't do the works, more industry will come in. If we sit back and allow it, it will come in, because we don't have any politicians to stand up for us. So that's why we have to stand up for ourselves. That's 5 of us. We're the one that started it in my den. We have 2 members that were there. They passed on. They were fighters also, Geraldine Mayho and Lynn Nicholas. They were there with us when we first started this. And we said we wanted to fight because no one is fighting for us. We had another organization called HELP, humanitarian enterprise of loving people. We went to those meetings every month, and we sat there and listened to the members of that organization talk about what's coming in. They talk about what's in here, and they talk about what they're making, and they talk about the chemicals that's being used and the chemicals that are being emitted in the air. And we asked them to let's stop Formosa, let's fight Formosa. They answered us, when the governor approved it, it's a done deal. And they said the planning commission will vote it in, and the parish council will follow whatever the planning commission does. And so that's how we all got started, because the Health Association wouldn't fight. And we asked them to join with RISE so we can become stronger and bigger. But they won't join with us. So we have this fight on our hands, and we're going to fight, and we're going to continue to fight. We had our All Saints Day celebration on the grave site where Formosa property is. Our ancestors are buried there, and we got the bishop from Baton Rouge to come to celebrate their presence and to acknowledge our ancestors who are buried there, because Formosa want to desecrate the grave sites. They don't think anything of the people that's buried there. And they don't think of the ones that's walking around here living. So we asked the bishop to come, and he came. And the other clergy was there also. We had a wonderful time, and he consecrated the grave sites. And then we had a reception after that. I thought that was wonderful. And he's supposed to come back again. And we're going to go from there. And this is the grave sites in St. James Parish in the 5th District. And behind the grave site, you can see the oil storage tanks. And look how many they are. Look how close they are, right across the street from the graves, right here in St. James. This is a march that we had. We had this march in Lutcher, Louisiana. We wanted to have it in Gramercy, Louisiana, but the mayor of Gramercy refused us to march. When he found out it was Rise St. James, at first he told us yes. 2 days later, he called and said we couldn't have it. So we went to the next area in St. James on the West Bank, and the mayor over there said we could have it. So we had it over there. We marched, we had drums, we had people that came out to march with us. And this amendment, if it would have passed, we wouldn't have been able to have a march or any type of action. So by us bringing attention to this amendment, I think the people were grateful to us. We put flyers on their doors. We had a rally. We explained to the people what was going on, and that was a big success. This amendment did not pass. So those are some of the things that we do. We try to educate the community, because we didn't know about this amendment until somebody brought it to our attention. So that's when we gave flyers, information to educate the public, and it didn't pass. That was a victory for us. And this is one of the first pictures that we took. Our first march that we had was in 2018, November the 3rd. I never forget that. That was my first time speaking to a crowd of people. And that was a big success. We had the march 1 mile from where Formosa want to be built. This 1 mile is also a Baptist church, and it's also a school, an elementary school. And Formosa they don't really care about the children. They don't really care about the community, because you can't build an industry 1 mile from a school. So they don't care. They were planning to build this monster right next to a school. And they our attorneys asked them to take the worst part of the plant and build it further away from the school. They said they were going to do it, but in the plans, it was not changed. So they were planning to build this, the worst part of the pollution would go to that school, to these school children. So that was how much they cared about our school children. This is a picture with the EPA, Michael Regan. He came down to St. James to speak to the citizens and not the politicians. And that's what I commend him for, because he wanted to see firsthand what was going on in St. James. And he did. And we had a town hall meeting. They told me how many people they wanted to speak and not to have the whole community there, but so many people. So we had a full house, and we had a list of people who spoke and told him their concerns. And he listened. And he said he's going to help us. And we felt his heart. We felt him just by being here and listening to us. And he assured us that he's going to help us. We brought him down the street called Burden Lane. Burden Lane, been there all of my life. And I don't know, industry or someone locked the gate where our evacuation route was. We had an evacuation route as long as I've been living. Then all of a sudden, when they tried to put the Bayou Bridge pipeline through, we don't know who locked the gate, who put a chain on the gate and a lock. We don't have that evacuation route anymore. So he came and he saw that, and he also saw the plant that was on one side of Birdland. It's called New Star, and one on the other side of Birdland called Marathon. Birdland is like a sandwich, two industries on both sides. And the politicians don't say anything. We haven't gotten an evacuation route. If something happened, we don't have a way out. The industry came to St. James. They took over our levee. We used to evacuate sometimes on the levee. We can't do that anymore because they came here and they blocked areas off. And now they put signs up there saying no trespassing. So it's just like in their minds, we are nothing, and they're not gonna buy us out. They're gonna let us die off. That's the way we feel. We feel hopeless. We feel like we need more help. We feel like we need to go to Washington and express our opinions even more and put more pressure on the Biden administration and our leaders who's supposed to be helping us. And I'm supposed to meet with Michael Regan. He haven't set up a time yet for me and Robert Taylor to come to DC to further discuss what's going on in Cancer Alley, especially in St. John the Baptist Parish and St. James Parish, because our parishes are the worst down Cancer Alley. This is one of our, this was a mobile billboard that we did. And it says, Formosa plastic would be a death sentence for St. James Parish. And that's a true statement. If Formosa plastic come, we will not be able to breathe the air because we're already breathing this dirty air right now. If you come to St. James and just visit with us for 2 hours, you will get firsthand experience. You will get a whiff of that air. The air is toxic, and when you come off the Sunshine Bridge, you will get a whiff of the odor that's in this area. So you can imagine what we've been breathing for all of these years, not knowing that the industry was poisoning us, poisoning our community. And that's why a lot of people died. And people are still sick and people are still dying. So if Formosa come, it would be a death sentence. We're going to die even more rapid. St. James rise for challenge. Victory is ours. That's what we preach about, and that's what it's going to be. We had our sign at the grave sites. We left flowers for our ancestors, and that's banner said, marching for justice against toxic emissions. And when we did our first Juneteenth at that site, our attorneys had to go to court to fight for us to be able to have access to the property. Formosa didn't want us to go on the property. We went to court on a Thursday. The judge ruled in our favor. They took it to a higher court, and that judge ruled in our favor also. So we went to that site that next day, which was a Friday. So they didn't want us to go. And every time we go to the site, we have to write them a letter or ask them. If they say no, then we have to go to court. But so far, they've been letting us go ever since that first time when we won. Yes, you can learn more about us by going to risestjames.org. You can go to our website also, Rise St. James.
Alrighty, thank you so much for that presentation. It's so overwhelming to hear how dire the situation is in St. James and how little your politicians appear to care, in addition to the people that run these companies just really show no regard. But at the same time, it's really inspiring to see the work that you've done combating this, and rather than feeling powerless like the Human Enterprise of Loving People kind of felt and said it was a done deal, you're really standing up, and it's showing really good results. So thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to the Q&A session of the evening. We have some prepared questions that we would love to have answered by you, Ms. Lavigne, and we can also, of course, have people submit questions to the chat. Looks like people are already doing that. And if you would prefer it to be anonymous, we also have Mentimeter that we will be monitoring throughout the evening. But I guess we'll get started with the first question we'd like to ask you, which is what inspired you to hold that very first meeting for Rise St. James? And we really like to know like what it felt like in that moment when the 10 of you were sitting in that den, and how has it changed ever since?
Oh, that first meeting we had in my den, everybody was riled up, everyone. And we didn't know what we were doing, but we knew one thing: we didn't want Formosa here. Everyone in that room knew that. And at first meeting, I was sitting there and my daughter was taking notes, and we was saying, what do we do? And we didn't know what to do. So we went to a conference in Baton Rouge. It was an NAACP conference at the Law School of Southern University. And Shamel and I went with some other members, Milton, Chastity, and Beverly. We all went to Southern University to express our concerns. And we didn't know that they were going to help us. We just went to present to them, and they look at us in so despair. I guess they said, them poor people over there and all that filth and dying and suffering. And so the next day we went back and they gave us their cards, attorneys, activists. We didn't even know about activists. We didn't know about anything. All we know was one thing: Formosa wasn't coming in our neighborhood. And for us to sit in that den, oh, it was wonderful, just talking about it and just angry and want to stop it. So that was wonderful. But prior to that meeting, I had a talk with God, and that's what inspired me. And also Geraldine and Beverly. And we used to go to the Health Association meeting faithfully once a month. And we would leave out of the meeting angry, disgusted, and fussing about how could they sit up there and not try to fight this plant. And so Geraldine used to tell me, we need to start our own organization. And she would tell me to start it. And I would tell her, not me. Not me. I said, I don't know anything about starting an organization. And I didn't. And so in the den that day, Geraldine was so hopeful that we was going to do something, even though we didn't know what to do. And then the next meeting in the garage, we had more people, and the NAACP came down to help us to organize. And in that particular meeting, we named the organization, and we formed our first march on November 3rd of 2018. That was exciting.
That is exciting.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Lavigne. I just wanted to ask about your background. Specifically, I've noticed that your advocacy work isn't the only way that you started to serve your community in St. James. I've noticed that you've also worked as a special education teacher for many years before starting Rise St. James. So how do you think your background in education shaped the way that you approach environmental work? And do you think that you learned any transferable skills or wisdom that have been helpful in this new chapter of your life?
Well, from teaching, I think that I'm still teaching because we try to get the word out. We try to get information out. We try to find the facts and present it to the public. So I'm still teaching. And it's wonderful. I'm still learning also because it's a lot that I don't know about this type of work. I've never done it before. I didn't go to a class to learn or anything. Like when you teach in school, you go to college and you learn your subject matter and you learn what you're going to do. You learn strategies and all of that. So some of those things carried over into what I'm doing. We have meetings to form strategies, to brainstorm, that kind of stuff. So I think that just might have paved the way some for what I'm doing now. That's what I would think.
That's a really great response. I wanted to go back a little bit. You spoke a little bit about Formosa Plastics and mentioned it previously. What has your experience been like fighting them, and how did the fight begin? And you mentioned it a little bit about your little victories. What are you most proud of during your journey fighting with them?
Well, we were most proud of stopping Wan Wan. That was a plant from China that wanted to come in on the West Bank. And we was talking about Formosa, but Wan Wan was already trying to come in. So when we had our first march with the Help Association on September the 8th, 2018, we were fighting Wan Wan and Formosa. Formosa wasn't that clear yet onto what they wanted to do. And they wasn't voted in until 2019. But Wan Wan, they haven't gotten their permit approved yet. Then they had other obstacles with the people that they were buying the land from or renting the land. That was an obstacle also. And then us fighting them also, that was a victory. That really was a victory. And for Formosa, they've been fighting this for 3.5 years. We've been fighting them. They are not built yet. So we must be doing something right. We started to yell. We started to complain. We started to have marches. So that kind of threw a spark in their efforts. And also we went to the Army Corps of Engineers, and Jamie Pinkham came down and met with the Army Corps, and he listened to the citizens also. That was in October of 2021. And all of that played a part in what we're doing. People are really listening and looking at what's going on. And so many people all over the world didn't know anything about Cancer Alley. And they didn't know people were dying so rapid. And they didn't know we have so much cancer.
All right, thank you so much. We have a few questions coming in from the chat, one of them being from Devin Wright. And their question is, what are some of the strategies that you have used in your work, and what has been most successful and why? So maybe protests as opposed to looking more in the court systems or litigation. What do you think has worked the best for getting justice?
I think our attorneys are doing a great job with the legal aspects of our works, and also the protests. The protests brought a lot of attention because it was on social media, and that was a big success, especially the marches that we were having from Cancer Alley to Baton Rouge to the governor. And that brought a lot of attention to what we're doing. And people beginning to listen and look and see what's going on. And I get emails from our funders on updates of what's going on, because Rise St. James, we are always doing something, and they want to know. And we try to keep them abreast on what we're doing. So I would say the protests, the marches, and the legal aspects of it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lavigne.
You're welcome.
We have another question from Drost, and I think it's a fantastic one. It's been one I've been meaning to ask, but she says, because your work is passionate and produces anger regarding the way that corporations dominate over St. James Parish, how do you find ways to emotionally cope and continue to pursue activism when the work is so taxing?
Oh my God, I have to read my Bible. I have to stay close to God. I have to talk to God. This fight is nothing easy. It's a lot of work. It's hard. And people that think it can't be done, you have to fight against them also. And people that try to shoot it down or bring our work down, find fault with it, they don't want to speak up. Some of them are afraid to speak up. Those are the things, the challenges that we have to go through. But that's almost in everything. So we kind of expect that. But we keep moving and we keep going, we keep fighting. Because if we stop, the ones that want the industry to come, they will get the victory. But we're not going to let that happen because Rise St. James is here to stay.
That's really good. That's really good to hear. We have another anonymous question from Mentimeter asking about the underrepresentation of African Americans in your parish council and what you think could be possible to achieve more representation, not only in parish councils, but also the state of Louisiana as it is underrepresented.
Well, our parish council and our parish president, they are not helping Rise St. James at all, I must say. And the politicians, the representative, the senators, they are not helping us either. That's why it makes it so hard for us, because we don't have any leaders in St. James or in the state of Louisiana that's trying to step up to help us. So we went to the clergy and we trying to get them on board with us. Some of them are already on board. Our priest is on board. And the bishop, just like I said, he came down, and we're thinking about doing some other actions with the bishop. And but you know, since COVID came, a lot of our actions were on hold. And now that COVID is, I guess, almost over, we plan to start back doing things again, even though a lot of our homes were destroyed in Hurricane Ida. And we're still moving, we're still doing things. And we plan to get more people to join with Rise. We have close to 100 members, and people are still asking to join Rise. And but it's a lot of work because we don't have that much staff. We don't have a building. And because I used to use my garage as a means of having meetings, but that's full with furniture and clothes and everything from Hurricane Ida. So we can't use that. But we still have meetings on Zoom. We still have that going on right now. And we just had an action on Thursday. We're trying to target Bank of America because they are one of the banks that Formosa is looking to be funded through. And it's other banks also. So we had an action to educate the public what's going on. And if they don't get the funding, they can't bill. I didn't know that. I didn't know they didn't have the money. I was surprised. So that's one thing that we trying to focus on also. And it's just that we always doing something, and we're going to continue to do something. And if it's going to bring more attention, and if it's going to keep any other industry from coming into St. James, we will continue to do things. And that's us. That's Rise St. James. We are like something that's keep going, and we don't stop. We just keep going. Because if you stop, the work will not get done. So
I'm glad you found a way to hit him in the pockets. That seems like one of the more effective strategies sometimes. especially when they're only economically oriented. You got to act like them too.
That's right. That's
Yeah. In your answer, you also, oh, go ahead.
right. Somebody was, who, me?
Yeah, I thought you were about to
Oh,
say
oh, oh, yes, that's one way to hit them in the pocket. And it's Bank of America, it's Wells Fargo's, it's Chase. After we found out about those banks, our allies and the people that's on calls with us, we have the No Formosa call every Monday. We have attorneys on that call, and we form strategies. And some of our allies brought to our attention about these banks, and we target the banks. And we also had an action in New Orleans with Chase Bank. And some of the people, we had 3 people who had accounts with Chase Bank. They went there that same day and closed the accounts. That was good. So I think that's a good way. Once our allies and the people that's helping us, they bring things to us also. And we form strategies and find out ways that we can do it. And for example, we speak to someone in Taiwan. They told us about the shareholders meeting. And that was about a year or 2 ago when we had pictures of us. We couldn't go out there at the time, but they had our pictures and they presented that to on the media on the step of the courthouse in Taiwan. And we talked to them on the phone on Zoom calls, even though the time difference is different, but they let us know what's going on. And they don't want Formosa there. So why do they think we want Formosa here? Why do Formosa think we want them here? And also, they are a serial offender in Texas. Diane Wilson been fighting that for 30 years. They destroyed the bay over there. A judge ruled them $50 million in damages. So they won't stop. They want to go other places to destroy other lives and they destroy the bay over there, the fish. They can't fish anymore because of what Formosa did. So we don't want Formosa to come over here and do the same thing with us. Just like we said, we have 12 industries within the 10-mile radius in the 5th district alone. And if all those 12, the air is so toxic until you can't breathe it. So if Formosa come with 14 smaller plants inside the big complex, just imagine how the air would be. Right here in the 5th district, it's going to triple. And throughout the parish, it's going to double. So it's just like a death sentence for us. We will not be able to live. We will not be able to breathe the air. So that's one reason why we're fighting so hard to keep it away from here.
It's certainly not an exaggeration. I completely agree. Earlier on, you mentioned the effects of COVID-19 on the ability of Rise St. James to go about their usual functions and to protest and things like that. So I wanted to ask you if you think COVID-19 in general has worsened environmental racism and health outcomes for your community. Do you think it's been sort of like a double whammy for people who are already suffering from respiratory problems?
Yes, I do think it's a double whammy because my friend Irma, she had diabetes, high blood pressure, and she was active in the community and she got COVID and she passed away. And so many other people caught it and they died also. So that slowed things down. It made the pollution and COVID, that's like a double whammy. So yes, that played a big part in us dying and getting sick. Yes, it did.
I'm so sorry to hear that. That's really disheartening to hear. I just wanted to backtrack a little bit to when you talked about how Rise St. James has over 100 members. I can imagine there's a lot of people in the audience right now who want to get involved, especially the students sitting in the crowd. So since there are many students in the audience, we wanted to ask, what can students sitting here tonight do to help your movement? And are there any ways we can show our support for Cancer Alley residents and raise awareness for the public or of the problem?
You can also join and you can go to our Facebook account and you can also branch it out, give it to other people, to other organizations. tell them what's going on in Cancer Alley and ask them to spread the word and ask them if they can get more recognition to what's going on. Help us if they know someone that can help us get to President Biden. If they know someone, a politician or someone that could help us by spreading the word. And since our local officials won't help us, maybe they might know someone that can get the word to them, ask them to come to St. James to see for themselves what's going on. Because I have had people come from out of state and they said they read about it, but to see it is something different. So we need people from Washington, D.C. to come down and see for themselves. When I spoke in Washington, D.C. with the environmental committee, they looked like they didn't know anything about what I was talking about. But I was glad I presented it to them, and they were open-minded. Just one man, he was against it. He said, "Thank you, Ms. Lavigne, and I wish you luck." He was arrogant about it, like it was nothing, like we can't change anything. But if he only knew, we can change this, and we will change it.
And it looks like Gary Watson has been kind enough to put in your guys' information for the website, Twitter, and Instagram. So everyone watching right now is more than welcome to check out Rise St. James at those places.
Thank you, Gary.
So to continue our Q&A, someone was asking that they're from a parish that is affected by chemical plants, and they wanted to know whether you or Rise St. James is planning to reach out into other parishes and do work there to continue your movement.
Yes, we do plan to reach out to other parishes. Right now, we're in the process of trying to build more on what we started and to get more people on staff, because we only have 1, 2, 3, and I make 4 people on staff, and they are part-time and I'm only full-time. So at least we're growing. We don't just grab people. We have to see if their heart is in the right place and if they are sincere about doing the work and not just to draw a paycheck. So we screen people to make sure we got the right person. We're getting ready to hire a grant writer. We're getting ready to hire an accountant / bookkeeper. And we getting ready to hire an organizer. We're getting ready to put the job description out. And probably next week it'll be out. And we need more people to join with us to lighten the load for the 4 of us. And we need more help in doing the works. And because I do have speaking engagements and I'm always going places, and I need them that's here on the ground that's doing the work, someone to help also. We need help like that also.
I'm sure we have plenty of people watching here tonight that are juniors and seniors looking for something interesting to do with their summers or a way to spend their time as a volunteer. So I invite them to go to your Facebook or your Twitter and see if there's a place for them in your organization, a way that they can help out.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I hope they come flooding in after this. Yeah, we have a question from Kira Hickbottom, and she's wondering if you found a good strategy to approach individuals who might be ignoring or diminishing the effects of pollution in St. James Parish. So how would you manage that situation, and what do you think works best to get through to them?
I would give them flyers. I would talk to them and explain to them what's going on, and ask them to join Rise and come to our meetings and listen. And you will learn a whole lot, because we do give out the facts, especially during our meetings. And read our articles, the articles that we put in the newspaper, we put on Facebook, we put on social media. Read what's going on and what we're doing. And also read what the chemical plants are doing to the people, how the chemical plants are taking our lives. So But you will find some people that's negative. They don't think it's real. Like my parish president said, this is not Cancer Alley. And I told him, yes, it is. And people that's the non-believers, we have to show them with the information, educate them, then they might believe. And especially if someone close to them pass away from cancer, from living in Cancer Alley, that might open their eyes.
I just want to remind everyone in the audience that you can utilize the raise hand feature if you wish to ask Ms. Lavigne a question personally. But we're going to take a question from the audience from Lisa Mumal. She says, niche question, but how do you find out where funding is coming from for corporations like Formosa, like which banks and stuff like that?
Well, someone told us that the Formosa is trying to get funding from Chase Bank, JC Morgan, that's Chase, and Bank of America. It was 3 banks that they told us, and those are the banks that we target. Because we didn't know what banks it were until someone told us. Just like I said, on these calls that we have, you'll learn a lot because people come to you with information. When they know you're fighting this, they come to the meetings on Zoom and they'll bring opinions and they bring information. And that's what's good. That's what's good about our calls.
So I'm going to shift a little bit of the topic on Tulane, and given that we are a research university and we do have a lot of influence in not only New Orleans, but the state, what do you believe that our institution's responsibility to address climate change and issues in Cancer Alley is?
What do I think you all should do? What issues
or
you
just
all should...
administration as well? Anyone working at Tulane, or just like Tulane's influence in general, do you think that we should be doing?
I think that Tulane should offer more classes in environmental issues, especially the industry, especially the ones that's poisoning us. Educate the students, teach them what's going on, and try to get more people, more students to go into the field of environmental injustice or environmental justice. And that would help a lot because a lot of the students can come out here and help us. They can give us information that they're finding out. Like, for example, if the students come and work during the summer, they can get information from all the industries that's in here and bring back to RISE what each industry, what chemicals they are using that's in the air that we are breathing. That's one of the things that we want to have done. And we want to do articles in the paper and also on social media about what the chemicals are and what their use are and how they are polluting us and how we are dying from breathing those chemicals. So we need the students to help us with things like that. So if I can get some to come out here in the summer and help RISE St. James, that would be highly appreciated.
I'm sure that there's a lot of people on the Zoom that are very passionate, and hopefully you will have those contestants to come out in the summer. But I wanted to ask a follow-up question. Do you have any specific bills on the top of your head, or any Louisiana representative that you think should be pressured by young people and that we should know about, the people sitting in this Zoom, anything that we should just know off the top of your head?
I think you should pressure all of them. I really do. Every last one, from the governor on down, because they don't care about our lives. So why should we care about them? Why should we spare them the burden of not speaking with us and not trying to help us? They don't care about us. They don't care if we die. So target all of them. We have a billboard in Kenner. We have one in Baton Rouge, asking the governor with his picture on it to save our lives in St. James. And the governor told me on November 3rd, no, November 1st, it was a Friday of 2019, the governor came to St. James soliciting our votes for him to be reelected. We gave him our votes. And I asked him, would he stop Formosa Plastics from coming into St. James? He answered me, I'm going to do a health study. Yeah, but we haven't gotten a health study yet. I wish he would do a health study. He would see that we are dying over here. I want him to do a health study. We need to get a letter written, maybe from the students, for Rise St. James, asking him to keep his promise, go on and do a health study for St. James Parish, especially the 5th District. And because we don't have the funds to hire someone to do the health study. But since he offered, why not let them do the health study? So if he would do a health study, he would see what's going on with our bodies and how we're sick and dying. That's one thing I was supposed to pursue, but I was caught up doing a lot of stuff, but we still plan to pursue it. So that would be a big help for the students to help us with. We have a lot of things that we want to do, and students come and help us, we can do a lot.
So to go off of the idea of like avoiding or putting pressure on certain representatives in the state of Louisiana, I wanted to move the topic to certain companies that we should avoid. So there's a question in the chat about, given the harm that petrochemical plants do to your community, do you think that people should divest any financial investments in other companies besides Formosa Plastics that produce like plastics or other harmful materials? So like, should we know about any companies that also, are harmful to the community as well?
You mean the ones that are harmful? Don't invest in any of those that's harmful, but I don't know of anything right offhand that we can, that you can invest in. Invest in solar. We need green jobs. We need things that's not going to poison us or make us sick. So just about all of these plants down this area, they are toxic. They are killing us. So one of them makes styrofoams. The other one make ammonia. What you call it? Not asbestos, fertilizer, and they won't even cover it. It's sitting out there, and when you pass there, you get a whiff of that smell. And someone asked them to cover it, and they said it wasn't a hazard to the community. Well, why don't you come out there and smell it? So just like I said, they don't care about us. If we would, and they had an ammonia leak last month, because I was in Texas and I got a phone call and said it was very bad. So someone called DEQ, and I don't know what happened after that, but I was told the police department came out there and the smell was so bad, they left. So how do you think we feel? We live 4 miles from that industry. So we have to smell it every day. And they dump the stuff in a ditch. When you pass on the highway, you can see it in a ditch. So you can wear a mask, but you can still smell it. We have called on that industry so much. Nothing is done. Nothing is being done. They still pollute.
Yeah, absolutely. Residents of Welcome don't exactly have the luxury of leaving when it smells bad. So
Right.
Definitely a great point, and kind of brings us to a similar question. Your community has obviously greatly benefited from your fight for justice, but there's also clear health risks associated with staying in St. James. So how do you navigate the needs of your health and family with the needs of your community? That has to be a difficult thing to reconcile.
Yes, it is difficult because we were raised here. This is our home. And people who want to leave, they don't have the finances to leave. And some of the industries bought out the white neighbors that we had, people that we went to school with. We grew up with those people, and they sold out on us, sold their big, beautiful homes, and they packed up and left. And they didn't even tell us prior to the industry coming in. And they sold our high school that I was teaching at the time. They sold our post office. They closed down the sugar mill. And we started to see, it looked like they want us to just either move or just die. So it's just like a skeleton town now. And we want to preserve what's left here because this is our home. We don't have the funds to pack up and leave. And we're not going to get what we have now somewhere else. I have 20 acres of land. There's no way I can go get 20 acres of land. I don't have the funds. I don't have the money. I can't do it. And a whole lot of other people can't do it. So my thing is, why should we give up what we love to let industry come in here and destroy us? This is our home. This is not their home.
So moving a little bit onto like the after effects, while some community members prefer to stay in St. James or don't have the resources to do otherwise, others may prefer a company buyout or other solutions for compensating residents. How do you reconcile differences between what you and other community members might want, and how do you deal with that?
How do I deal with the people that want to leave and the people that want to stay?
So
the people who are preferring like a company buyout and solutions that result in kind of compensating residences from differing people who, what we earlier asked was the community members that kind of don't believe in what's going on, or the people that just stay ignorant. How do you deal with those, and how do you reconcile the differences between what you and your community thinks?
Well, I think that we have more people who believe what RISE is doing than people that don't believe. And like, for example, when Geraldine went to the plant to ask them to buy her out because she was sick and she was tired of breathing that air, and she went to ask them and they told her no. So she was in Bird Lane in the middle of two industries, and that's where she died. She died breathing this filth. And then it caused other complications in her body. That's why she left so fast. And she was a fighter. And I was sorry to lose her because she had a mouth on her. She would tell it like it is. She would tell a politician. She would tell it everybody. So the people that don't believe, that's them, but we still try to get their attention, and we still try to communicate information to them, whether they read it or not. But a lot of times they are reading it. Trust me, they are reading it. They might not want to acknowledge that they're reading it, but a lot of them are.
Alrighty, thank you for expanding on that. We have a question from Sarah that we accidentally skipped over earlier. So because many environmental hazards disproportionately impact historically marginalized groups, and St. James is majority Black, does your work take an intersectional approach to tackle issues of structural racism in regards to the environment?
Well, we know it's racism because in the 5th district, it's predominantly Black. Throughout the parish, it's like half and half. But they put these industries in predominantly Black areas because they know no one would speak up. And they know the politician was going to vote it in. And they've been doing that for years and not bringing the attention to the public. And if we would have known back then, we would have spoke up sooner. But no, we are the voice for St. James Parish. Voice goes out to the whole parish and for Cancer Alley. But we need people to listen to what's going on. Just like I said, if we would have known it years ago when they first rezoned the 5th district to be future industrial, it was always residential commercial. And we didn't know they had changed it in 2014. And that's when we started to do our research and our eyes were open. And we started to fight. Because if you don't know something is going on, your parish council don't tell you anything, we vote them in and they do whatever they want to do. And whenever we find out about it, it's too late. It's too late. So I'm glad that we did find out about Formosa. Trust me, I'm so happy, because if we hadn't found out about Formosa, they probably would have already started to build. So I don't know, if the people need to get the politicians out of office, to be honest with you. We can do something with the students when they come to St. James. Protest the politicians, the parish president, the representative, the senator. Protest against them. We can have a march and just protest the politicians. They are not helping us. That's our elected officials. That's who we voted in office, so we can vote them out. We need to work on that also. Get new people in there who will protect us and the lives of the people in St. James Parish.
Thank you so much. We just had a quick technical question. You keep mentioning Birdland or Bird Street.
Burton Lane. It's called Burton Street, but when I was a little girl, it was called Burton Lane, because
Okay.
they had a school there, and I went to that school. It was called Burton Lane.
Okay.
But that's the main street in St. James. That's the worst street in St. James.
Okay. Thank you so much for that clarification.
You're welcome. Welcome.
So we have an anonymous question asking whether you have ever considered yourself for running for parish council position to try and bring legislative change in St. James Parish.
No, I have not considered that. I didn't consider doing what I'm doing right now, because God put this in me to do this work, and he told me to fight. If God put into me to run, trust me, I'll be on the ballot tomorrow. But he didn't put that fight in me to fight. I mean, to be a parish council member or parish president. Just like he put this fight in me to do this, I have to learn about the environment and the laws, and it's a whole lot you have to learn. You don't go to school and take a course, especially me. I just went out there and I did it. So I'd have to learn the ins and outs of being a parish council person. So that would take time away from RISE. But if God tell me, if he put into my mind to run, I'll run right now. But he didn't. And I can't abandon RISE. Maybe after we get more staff and I learn more about what's going on in the parish with the issues and stuff, maybe down the line, but not right now. No. But I wish we could find someone who could run to protect us and not the pocketbooks of the industry.
Agreed. I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of your story, is just that you had so little previous experience with politics and environmental advocacy before throwing yourself in the ring, and to see how successful you've been is it's a good sign for the rest of us, and that we'll be able to just do whatever we put our minds to.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. I guess another question that we have for you, in the presentation you showed today, you showed a picture of the founding five. And we're just wondering, what do your daily lives look like now that you founded Rise St. James, and this is such a big part of your life? What does the day-to-day look like for you as you run this organization?
Day to day, I'm on Zoom calls every day. Like, for example, I have people coming Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I will be with people, showing them around, giving them a tour, and doing interviews. And when I won the Goldman Award, it got worse, to the point where I don't have any social time. My daughter fussed and said I worked too much. So I took off Sunday last week in the evenings, and I came back Tuesday evening, and I felt refreshed. So I was told that by other people, because I was so tired. And so everybody needs to do that. Take a day or two off just to rest. I used to rest on Sundays, but I get up and I go to church. And if someone can't see me on the weekdays, I would take the calls on a Sunday or a Saturday. And some of my friends fuss at me and tell me I'm working too much because I don't spend time with them because we used to go to movies or go out and eat or do things. I don't do that anymore because I have work to do. I really do. It's a lot of work, and you have to stay on top of issues and stay on top of these industries. You just can't stop. So somebody have to be out there looking out for us. So I have to do what I have to do. But I advise people not to do what I'm doing. Take a break. Please take a break.
Thank you so much. So you just mentioned winning the Goldman Award. First of all, congratulations. That is such a big deal. Can you first explain to the audience what that prize is? And also, we just want to know, what was it like to win that award? And did you ever expect to gain the international recognition that you did? And has this award helped you get a larger platform?
When Ryan called me and told me I had won this Goldman Award, I had never heard of the Goldman Award. I didn't even know there was such an award. I didn't know you're doing environmental work, you can get an award. I didn't know that. So when Ryan called me from the Goldman, he told me I won that award. And I thought he was a prank call. And I was about to hang up on him. Then he tried to assure me that it wasn't a prank call. I still didn't believe him. And then I called my son to tell him what this man said. And he said, well, Mama, if he call again, it's real. And I said, okay. So he called again. And I believed him after that. But he explained to me that I won. And he said, 6 people in the world get this award. And I was the one in North America that got the award. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I said, dear Lord, you bringing me to places I've never been. And I said, you want me to do this work, and I'm going to do it for you, whatever you want me to do. And so from that award, I had looked like double the amount of calls, the double amount of interviews, and people coming down. Oh my God. It keep going and going and going and going. It don't stop. And then I've had speaking engagements to go different places. And I even went to Abu Dhabi. And but that was with Forbes. Forbes invited me to come out there. And I never traveled before in my life like this. I traveled, but not like this. And to receive the Goldman Award, that was the highest an award an environmental activist can get. And I didn't even know anything about it. Just like I said, I went into this not knowing anything. And it's a whole new world out there being an environmental activist.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
That really is, and it's so inspiring to hear. I wanted to gear shift a little to the programs, and I just wanted to ask if you could explain a little bit more about Change for the Fallen and Change for the Children and what the programs look like.
Oh, my thing is we need to target the children more because the children are our future. And like the event that we had Thursday with the Bank of America, we had children out there. We had different activities for the children. The children brings the parents. You give the literature to the parents. The parents have to read it because the children brought them out there, which is good. So we even did a coloring book, an activity book to bring to St. Louis Academy to give to the children for Black History Month. And that's given to the children so the parents can see those things, see what Rise St. James is doing. They could read the book. The children could learn. The children start off from little, getting interest in what we're doing. And so we want to target the children more. We want to do things for the children, because the children is our future. And they bring it to Mama and Daddy. Mama, I want to go to this. Mama, look, Rise St. James is doing this. We want to go and see what Rise St. James is doing. And so right now, my daughter and Gary and my crew, they are getting Easter bags together. to give to the church, and to pass out in the community. So that's our children. Then we're going to have literature in the bags telling them what RISE is doing. And I think the children will be our key to getting to the parents. And the children, that's our future.
That's a great strategy. I hope to hear more on later on, and if that's like a effective strategy. And yeah, I guess we'll move on to a question about your family legacy specifically. So I know that your father was the president of the local chapter of the NAACP and did some really fantastic civil rights work. And so do you think that has inspired the kind of work that you do today? Do you think you learned from his experiences or watching him go through that?
No, I didn't watch my daddy do anything. All I know what he did. I know that he was a strong fighter, and he was the president of the NAACP on the West Bank of St. James Parish. Somebody else was on the East Bank. And I remember when I was a little girl, he was telling my mama, he got a phone call saying they're going to burn our house down because he was fighting for civil rights. But him being a strong Catholic and believing God, they didn't burn our house, but they burned his truck. So that wasn't as bad as the house. So they burned his truck. They wanted to burn his garage, his mechanic shop in front of the house. But they didn't burn that one either because they told my brother they had to put a scarf or something on the building so they wouldn't burn it. So when I remember when he told us, when he told my mama that he was going to the school, he was trying to get enough children to go to integrate St. James High School, a predominantly white school back then in the 60s. And he couldn't get one man to go with him, not one man. So all he could gather was 7 children. That's all he could gather. The rest of them were afraid, and you couldn't blame them. They were afraid to go. So he got the 7 children, and the parents came with their child, and they integrated that school in 66. I remember that because the superintendent, he would talk to the superintendent of the schools and ask them, could we go? And the superintendent said, no, he wanted the younger children to go. So that's how those 7 6-year-old children went. They made history that day. And they said my daddy rode on the bus with the women and the 7 children. And they said when he got off the bus, he had a big hat on his head. And they said, one man said he was afraid for him. He was praying for him that nothing would happen to him. He thought somebody would shoot him off of a distance, but it didn't happen because my daddy had faith. He believed in God, and he did it. But the thing that gets me, he told me he would ask this man to go with him, ask that man. All of them had excuses. Some of them told him they had to work, like he didn't have to work. So he went by himself, and the 7 women came with him, and the 7 children. And they integrated that school.
That is so awesome to hear, Ms. Lavigne. It sounds like your entire family is just so inspiring. But I've noticed that a common theme that has emerged with both your father's work and your work is that you face a lot of obstacles and resistance.
Yes.
And so it might be really easy to feel discouraged. So how do you stay optimistic in your line of work and in the face of resistance and other challenges that you face?
Well, I stay optimistic because I think about my daddy. He always told us, he said, Sharon, he said, prayers changes things. And when I started doing this work and people would tell me, I'm just like my daddy. And I said, I am. And they started telling me, I speak just like my daddy because my daddy was out there vocal. He spoke. And I started to think back, that's true. It didn't come to me until other people told me about it. So his voice rings in my ear sometimes and tell me, when I get discouraged, I think about him. Prayers changes things. And he's so right. And he always prayed. And that's why I pray. Sometimes I go to the chapel, stay in there that hour, just talk to God. when I have a problem, I tell it to God, tell it to some people, they don't understand my problem. But I stay focused by reading my Bible. I have to read the Bible to do this work. You can't do it just like that. It's not that easy because you have obstacles that come in your way. You have friends who don't believe you can do this, friends who try to discourage you, friends who are jealous of what you're doing because they thought they should have been doing it. And some friends that on breathing machines and stuff, they still don't think we could stop Formosa. But that's on them. I just pray for them. You know, some people say things that's negative. I don't listen to it. Sometimes I might get a phone call from someone saying, read what so-and-so say about you. I say, I don't want to read it because I'm busy on Zoom calls all day. I don't have time to go look at Facebook and see what somebody say. I don't care what somebody say because at the end of the day, I'm with God. I talk to him. He's going to work on those people because he uses me as his vessel. And this is what I'm going to do until he tell me to stop.
It's an amazing mindset, and it's so important to have, you know, those positive motivators. And I'm really glad that you found yours, and it's really inspirational. And I know I keep on saying that, but like speaking to you, you are very an inspiring person. And speaking of which, your work has demonstrated the significant impacts of that small scale activism that we have mentioned that it can have. So I'm curious whether you know of any other community projects like yours that have been able to make a difference and have been coming to forefronts as well.
The community that I know of is St. John the Baptist Parish. That's our neighboring parish from us. They marched with us when we went to march, and they are fighting. Oh boy, they have a lot of pollution over there, and they've been fighting longer than us, but we partnership with them. And my heart goes out to those people. Those people are really, really sick. And this plant is right next to a school. And those children are breathing that every day. And the EPA came to them, had a meeting and told them about the pollution, about the cancer-causing chemicals. They didn't even know. And then when they tried to do something about it, no one helped them. But the EPA, Michael Regan, gave them some air monitors. So I don't know anything more about that, but that's what he gave them. And he's also working with us to get some for us too. But I wish you could meet Mr. Robert Taylor. He is really awesome in his whole organization. They've been fighting for a long time. Even though the hurricane destroyed a lot of the homes over there, they haven't rebuilt yet. The same way with us over here, we haven't rebuilt yet.
That's awesome. Your work, your organization's work, and other organizations in the area have done an exceptional job keeping companies like Formosa Plastics from building new plants along the Mississippi. But I feel like there will continue to be companies that keep trying to build in this area, right? And so what do you think are the long-term solutions that can keep new industries permanently out of Cancer Alley?
The first thing is to get rid of the politicians that's approving these industries to come in here. And we're already fighting another one. It's called South Louisiana Methanol. They want to be built right next to our park in the 5th District. And that's the only park we have. And we're also fighting to keep that one out, even though the parish council gave them a permit so they can start to build right now if they want to. But they also wanted to expand on that old permit. So we're fighting that. And we're asking the community to speak up. We're going to do some things next week in the community to bring more awareness to this industry that's trying to come in. We have flyers that we're going to pass out next week. We have RISE members that's going to go from door to door next week. If you all are available and you want to come, you are welcome. And they don't really know the effects of this chemical plant that's coming in. No, it's not a chemical. It's a methanol plant. And they still trying their best to come in, but we are on them also. Our attorneys are on them, and we're watching them really close. So that's one that already have a permit, and our parish council not doing anything to stop it. So it makes you wonder about the parish council. I know it makes me wonder, and it makes everybody else wonder, why would you want to poison your people? And that plant is going to poison them. And the children will not be able to go in the park. How can you go in the park and a chemical plant is right next to your fence line? So we are going to fight to keep that one out also. And also, we are thinking we're going to see what the EPA is going to do with the data that we collect. We have some air monitors that's out right now, and we're going to see what they're going to do about it. And we're going to bring more attention to the ones that are here that are poisoning us and that don't care about our lives. And we're going to ask the EPA to shut them down. I know people they're not going to like rise for doing that, but a lot of the jobs, the people don't get the jobs in the community. It's outsiders. We notice the people that knock off at a certain time of the day. You can look at the license plate on the back of their trucks. They come from Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, all over the place. And they don't live here. They come here to make the money and take the money out of this parish. So, but we are left with the illnesses, the sicknesses, the deaths. They don't live here. So that needs to be changed. And they come into the neighborhood and say they're going to give jobs to the locals. That's so false. That is not true.
That's one of the most aggravating parts is St. James Parish residents seem to have to deal with all of the problems with all of this industrialization. They have to deal with the burdens while other people are the ones that get the profits and get to benefit from that.
That's right.
I'd love to talk to you all night. I'm sure I could sit here for several more hours chatting with you, but we only have time for probably 2 more questions. So I'll get that one started for you. As kind of like a takeaway, most of us are college students sitting in this Zoom right now and are very busy with our studies for sure, but want to help in any way that we can. So I would want to ask, what do you think is the singular most important thing that college students like us could do to further this movement of raising awareness for Cancer Alley and mitigating environmental racism?
I think you could write letters to the legislature, letter to President Biden, to Troy Carter, our senators, our representatives, and do more research for us in the chemical plants, especially in the 5th and the 4th district, and make people more aware of what's going on. Bring the word out as far as you can bring it.
Great. I'll be sure to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're going to close the night with one last question. So what do you think is your favorite thing about your community in Welcome? And do you think there's anything that you miss that has changed with the arrival of industrial plants in your town?
In my community, we had everything. When I was a little girl, we had everything. We had beautiful green trees, pecan trees, all kind of fruit trees, vegetables. We had livestock. We didn't have to buy meat. We didn't have to buy eggs or milk. We didn't have to buy fruits. We had it. We grew it. Our soil was productive. Our air was clean. You can get up in the morning, take a fresh breath of that clean air. You can't do that anymore. And I miss that. I miss that. And I like the people in the community are so friendly and so nice. We help each other. When someone is in need of something, the community will get together and help that person. For example, if someone died, they don't have burial insurance, community would get together, throw a dinner or something, use that money to help that person. So we always help each other. even if you're angry with someone, you put that aside. When someone is in need, you come to their help. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody took care of everybody's children. Today, you can't even tell somebody's children anything. But in St. James, people would tell each other's children, if you're doing something wrong, they would correct them. If you go back and tell your mama, so-and-so said that, she would get mad with you to come and tell her what that person corrected you with. So we had all of those things. We had, to me, that was the richest. Now it's the total opposite. We have death, we have sickness, we have cancer. And back then, you weren't sick. I was not sick at all. My parents were not sick. But when the first industry came in here, they welcomed the industry. Everybody thought it was a good thing. I thought it was too. Look how many years later that we understanding that it wasn't a good thing. It brought jobs, that's true, but they didn't tell you the downsides. It brought sickness and it brought death. So I wish we can go back a little bit to the old days. Stop using so much plastic. Go back to the glass jars, to a glass, not plastic, not styrofoam, because the chemicals to make the plastic is cancer causing. That's what the research I would want Tulane to do, to show where, name the chemical, tell them it's used to make plastic and has cancer causing. Tell those things. People need to know those things. That's what RISE would like to do. We're doing so many things and we have to get more staff, but if the students come out here this summer, those are some of the things I want them to do. Do the research on all of these chemicals that's being emitted in the air. That's one thing I've been speaking about and I want done. And I want St. James to be the way it was. It might be impossible now because so many industries is in here. They ran so many people out and it's not attractive anymore for people to come in here. But if we can get some of these chemicals, plants that's polluting us and poisoning us to shut down and pack up and throw their stuff somewhere else, people might come back to live in St. James. That's what I would like to see.
That's a great call to action. We all have a place in this fight, and I hope people are inspired by your words today to really involve themselves as much as they can. That's unfortunately all we have time for tonight. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. And obviously, great big thank you to Sharon Lavigne for joining us today. A few more things before we end. I would love to encourage you guys to look up RISE St. James on Facebook, Twitter, and their website to learn more. And if you're interested in more events like this, we are USG Sustainability Committee and our divestment subcommittee is hosting an Earth Day teach-in April 22nd. It's a Friday at 2 p.m., I believe, and we will be gathering people to talk more about what environmental justice looks like, why fossil fuels doesn't have a place in a just future, and how we need to move our money out of fossil fuel investments, including Tulane's endowment, as quickly as possible. But otherwise, thank you all for being here so much, and extra big thank you again to Ms. Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. And if you need to know anything, just give me a call.
You know where to find you. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.